I don't know if I'm going to end up posting this video. I try to keep my channel really like logical. Yes, about me, but at the same time like just not too emotional, because I want my channel to be like encouraging for people. But I also don't want it to seem like I have my shit together too much, because like, as I've kind of stated in other videos, like I'm on a journey of like healing and recovering myself, you know, like it's not an easy thing. I guess the one reason I kind of like turn the camera on is, I guess, to try to document a moment that doesn't happen all the time, but I know is very common for survivors, and happens to me sometimes, where it's hard. Where it's like really hard to know that all this stuff has like changed me. And, you know, to just be like really aware of the fact that there's stuff that's just like really damaged inside of me. It's not as easy for me to like fall in love now. It's not as easy for me to be vulnerable with men. It's not easy for me to like give my heart away, you know? And it's hard to not, there's the temptation to want to pendulum swing the other way into like bitterness and self-pity. And I think there's a difference between taking the moment to really like grieve, which I'm doing right now, and staying in it. You know, there's a grave, and it's good to go back to the grave and kind of look at the things that have been lost. But it's not good to stay at the grave. And that's the balance that we have to walk, you know, is you can't stay at the grave. You're not supposed to stay at the grave. I don't want to stay at the grave and live there, you know. People can't stay there with you, and it's lonely if you do that, and that's not a life. It's not a life to stay at the grave. But there is a grief process at the same time, just seeing like how I've been changed, you know. I guess the reason I turned the camera on though wasn't to just like cry in front of you guys, but I'm always trying to make my channel like an opportunity for people to see how I'm trying to process stuff, in case it might be of benefit to them. And so I have these moments, you know. It's usually when I'm like trying to date somebody new, and I can't tell yet if there's somebody who's intentionally trying to make me feel like shit about myself, or if they're bringing up valid things, you know, valid things that are maybe difficult to experience. And I still struggle with that in the beginning. That's where, you know, like accountability partners and encouragement friends like really come into play and are so helpful. But it's also just like, it just reminds me of, you know, when I was younger, I would want to play the what if game. What would I have been like if I hadn't been raped? What would I have been like if I hadn't been groomed? What would I have been like if I hadn't had cycles of abuse and abusive partners in my life who made me the person that I am today? But you can't do that. I can't do that. I can't sit there and wonder and play the what if game. There's no reason to torture myself like that. It's so unnecessary. It doesn't serve any purpose. It's horrible. It's literally just torturing yourself. And so that temptation will come in these moments. And the other mental temptation that I have in these moments is to really get into a deep level of discouragement about myself, where I'll have a voice in my head, and it's an abusive voice. In my opinion, that's what I choose to call it. Everybody might have this voice in some ways, but like, this is what I choose to call mine, is an abusive voice, because it will try and tell me that I am so much worse than other people in how I'm changed. I'm so much more damaged. I'm so much more fucked up. You know, like, look, this is why no one can be in a relationship with you. Like, you know, it's shitty. It's an asshole voice. And that voice will try to creep in these moments and give me a deep level of discouragement. It's almost a version of splitting thinking a little bit, black and white thinking, because I'll go from being pretty okay with myself. I mean, not grandiose or anything, but it's like my brain will want to take me into total discouragement, total resentment of myself, total disgust for myself. And that's a very when we talk about how narcissists think about things in all good or all bad categories, that's a narcissistic voice that I've borrowed from someone. Not narcissistic in the sense that it's grandiose, but narcissistic in the sense that it's all bad and all bad perspective. And so, you know, those things, those voices, these are the moments where I'm very vulnerable, and some of those old mental habits will try to creep in. And I guess that was something that I just wanted to almost kind of like process on camera, because I don't have these moments as often anymore, which is a huge relief. But I don't think this is maybe necessarily something I've discussed on my channel, because they don't happen as often, and I know that they probably happen to lots of other people, not just me. I think it's really important to remember that comparison is the thief of joy. And it's just so true. None of us are going to be perfect before we die. And, you know, I work really hard to try to like be a better version of myself every single day when I wake up. But yeah, I think what has been so hard sometimes, like in my like a journey as a survivor, and I already know I've made a couple of videos about things that are difficult, because there's a lot of really difficult things, but one thing is this idea that I'm sure I've touched on in other videos, where like people want you to be better, you know, like, and you want that for yourself. Like, you don't want to feel fucked up, and you don't want to feel damaged, and you don't want to feel like abnormal, or like, I don't want to act like a traumatized person. I don't want my trauma to affect me, but it just does. And I might cry again. And it just sucks. It just sucks sometimes. I guess wanted to make this short video because these moments, more than anything, are me kind of revisiting the grave. And the grave, I guess, is a lot of things, but I think at the grave, more than anything, is like my child self. And I don't want to get in self-pity about it, but I think it's just kind of talking to the child inside of me who didn't get a lot of love and understanding and like caring about her. And in these moments, instead of like talking to myself like I'm a piece of shit and carrying on that abusive voice that I picked up from other people, when I feel this way, it's an opportunity to be really nice to her and to kind of say to her, like, it's okay. You know, you're doing a great job. And you might not ever be, well, you won't ever be the person that you were before, but you're something really special. And you're doing a great job. And so as I sit here and say that to myself tonight, I also wanted to sit here and say that to you guys too. Maybe you don't have someone around you giving you a high five or acknowledging all the work that you're putting in. Because for a lot of us, our success doesn't come overnight. It doesn't even really come in the first few months. It takes years. And that's really hard. It's hard for us to go through. It's hard for friends and family to go through with us. But I guess I just want to say to you, as I'm saying this to myself tonight, that you're doing a really great job. And it doesn't happen immediately, but just know that where you look is where you're headed. Just like a car, you know, when you're driving down the road, if you're looking to the left, you're going to slowly start veering that way. It's the same thing with your life. And so it might not feel like you're getting somewhere. It might feel like you're constantly making the same mistakes. It might feel like you're not changing in the way that you want to see change. It might not feel like you're turning into this person that's the same as everybody else, you know, walking around you. But don't compare yourself to other people. You know, the goal at the end of the day isn't to become like everybody else anyway. The goal at the end of the day is to become the best version of yourself that you can. It's not to blend in and fit in and be just like everyone else. It's to figure out who you are as your own unique, special individual. So you not becoming like everybody else, or us not becoming like everybody else, doesn't mean that we're failing. It just means that we're continuing on our journey of figuring out who we are outside of our trauma, outside of abuse, in who we want to be. Success, I think, is measured by the tiny triumphs that we make every single day when we just wake up and get out of bed and choose to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And all we can do is just do that every single day. Wake up and try again. Because it's hard. It's hard to fail and to feel like you're failing, and then to get back up again and try again. And there's a lot of people who won't understand that that's such a huge part of your journey, is continually feeling like you're failing, but getting up and trying again anyway. And if you have anyone around you that's making you feel like that's not enough, then maybe that's because you're not the right person for them. Because if you're trying, that's all you can do is try your best. Give the most that you can every single day to yourself and to the people around you. But don't forget to take moments to also talk to the child inside of yourself and give the child inside of yourself this acknowledgement as well. Don't forget to say kind things to yourself. I just wanted to make a follow-up clip for what 24 hours later can look like. You know, after the abusive narcissistic voice has worn off, and after I've like checked in with a couple of my accountability friends, like, I feel a lot better. And those are two of the biggest things that like sometimes I just have to go to sleep. Sometimes I have to reach out to somebody and say, what do you think about these thoughts that are kind of going through my head? And sometimes I just have to also really learn to like talk myself through it. So I journaled a little bit last night, and making the video also helped me because it was kind of me talking it out even though nobody was around, I guess. And then yeah, I went to sleep. I didn't act on any of the feelings, not that there's anything I really would have done, but maybe when I was younger I would have texted somebody something that felt like that's really how I felt in the moment, you know. But the next morning I would have found out like I actually don't really feel that way as much once all that stuff has kind of worn off a little bit more. I think it is a version of being like triggered. I don't know if triggered's the right word, but that deep wound pain, which is what I call it, I just call it deep wound pain. It is the deep wound that has sort of had some salt put in it from whatever. And that deep wound pain is a whole other kind of pain that's just like very overwhelming, kind of takes over my whole mind for a second or two, or sometimes a couple hours, and I just kind of have to wait for it to subside a little bit. It's deeper than being upset, as how I would describe it. But yeah, those are some of the tools that I definitely like used, and I didn't act on what I was feeling in any kind of way. Like I was saying, when I was younger, I might have texted somebody something, I might have maybe gone out and drank, just maybe done something, because the feelings that I was feeling would have been really painful for me. And now today, I just kind of sit with it and remind myself that it's just the deep wound pain, and feelings don't last forever. And even if it's not completely gone in the morning, it will be better, and it will be processed more, especially after I sleep. So I guess after making that video last night, I did want to kind of just like show what it is like even just 24 hours later. Even if you just wait 24 hours when you're processing something really painful, when you're triggered in some kind of really intense way, just waiting 24 hours, even just that small amount, which can feel like forever sometimes, can be so helpful to us. And practicing the skill of waiting 24 hours before you make any kind of decision, say something, convince yourself of something, anything like that. But one thing that does make the morning after, or the 24 hours later, a lot better is me actually checking in with people who have like a healthier, more balanced perspective. Again, my trusted people I've known for a really long time, who I know I can trust for feedback. Doing that and journaling and actually trying to like accurately assess what's going on inside of me, even if I can only do it a little bit, those are the things that make the 24 hours later a lot better. And again, these are just skills that are learned slowly over time. Sometimes it takes a while to not just have that knee-jerk reaction of feeling really overwhelmed and doing something in reaction to the feelings that's kind of impulsive and not necessarily good for you. It takes time to learn to slow down your brain and calm down your brain enough to where you can actually like pause and try to assess things, and not just take all of your feelings for granted and think, oh my gosh, I'm feeling something, therefore it must be valid, therefore it must be the truth. But actually pausing and saying, why am I feeling this? Where did it come from? Should I believe the thoughts in my head, or is it an abusive voice that I learned from someone when I was younger who didn't care about me? Just kind of like looking at it, examining it, not just taking it at face value. But that is something that helps my 24 hours later be a lot better. So yeah, I hope this video was of help to someone out there. Even just one person is always my goal. And I hope you guys have a good day, and God bless.
She moves to LA, she wants to be somebody. 3.5 years later, she's still not anybody. She's still hoping for a break while she's waiting tables, realizing some dreams are fables. Fear goes when she knows that she's out of control, throwing up in the bathroom, hoping that nobody knows. And she fears she's a failure. She forgets that God loves her. You tried and you failed, hold your head up high. You climbed and you fell, hold your head up high. You tried and you failed, hold your head up high. Hold your head up, hold your head up high. 'Cause if we never make it ever, then it's gonna be okay. 'Cause if it's not okay to fall sometimes, it's not okay to be. If they don't want us, it's okay, honest. It doesn't have to bring me down. Let them say we're not big rock stars. It's not what we're about. We don't have to be rock stars. We don't have to be rock They said he'd never make it, maybe they're right. His parents never believed that his dream could take flight. All he ever wanted was for them to be proud of him. It was the whole world to him, he needed to win. He gave it his everything, but sometimes it's not enough. He thinks he's a failure, now he's not worth being loved. He forgets he had the courage to climb up so high, the courage to try, the courage to fly. He tried